Right, good evening everyone for this meeting of the Manydown Executive Committee. I should read out the fire evacuation procedures to begin with. There are no fire alarms scheduled for this evening, therefore if the fire alarm sounds, please evacuate the building immediately. The fire exits are located at the rear end of this room. Go down the stairs and meet in the War Memorial Park. Second, to note that this meeting will be webcast. Third, apologies for absence, there are none. Could I ask members, are there any declarations of interest? None, thank you. Member and public participation, I have 4 members who've indicated that they wish to speak on paper B, so I'll call you at that point. Then I'm moved to confirm the minutes of our meeting on the 29th of January. Can I take these as a pre-record? Agreed, thank you. I'll sign those at the end of the meeting. And urgent items, there are none. Referrals from full council, there are none. References and reports from other committees, there are none. Petitions, there are none. Non-executive issues, there are none. So then we come to item 12, paper B, and I will ask the Cabinet Member to introduce this, but before he does, I'd just like to say a few things myself, if I may. We're committed to ensuring the right development of Manydown, and that means developing it within this local plan period, optimising the site to deliver the 3,000 or so houses and related facilities that are part of any good development. And on that point, development should be of the highest quality. This should be an exemplar development, at least meeting the policies in the emerging local plan. And as part of that, it's important that we retain a gap between Oakley and Basingstoke. We recognise that this should be part of any development that we put forward, and we believe that this is in the interests of existing residents, but also of the new development. It also remains a priority of the authority in the long term to deliver a new western bypass to Basingstoke. We must ensure that the decisions we make today don't preclude this tomorrow. The Council must play its role in the local plan consultation to ensure these and other principles are recorded properly. And that is why I'm pleased to now hand over to the Cabinet Member responsible for Manydown so that he can suggest the landowner's response to the consultation.
Thank you, Councillor. The drafting of the pre-submission local plan policy for Manydown as published could lead to interpretations which would work against the Council's overarching aims for the exemplary development of Manydown, and that is why we're putting forward these representations to the local planning authority. We acknowledge the comments of EPP Boscom on the 19th of September, and I will take these into account when finalising our representations to the local planning authority.
Thank you, Councillor Izard. I'd then invite Councillor Bierman, who's first on the record, to make any comments.
Thank you, Chair. I do this in what I consider a state of blindfold, because I'm not aware of what was finally concluded in the EPP. I've not seen the minutes from that, and I was unable to be present for most of it. I also do it blind in as much as I haven't seen the master planning as it stands at present. And as I said at full council, I don't know how one can possibly engage in such a serious debate about site allocations and so on when one doesn't know where what is described in this report as the single largest site, what is being proposed from within the group. So one is trying to make decisions on half-baked and half-informed information. So to my mind, that starts making the decision-making process unsound. and soundness is something we should be aware of. Paragraph 3.83 refers to it, and then paragraph 3.8.7 gives a whole list of things that are required: positively prepared, justified, effective. Well, I can't answer those questions because I don't know what's as part of the master plan. I'm concerned that the overall plan is deficient on number of houses proposed because there's really no slack in it, and if something falls out, then suddenly we're up the tree with nothing to help us down again. Not least because whilst plans can be approved and be in the overall local plan, that doesn't mean to say they're actually going to happen. It doesn't mean to say the developer's going to build. And if developers put in applications but then don't build, or even fail to put in the applications when it comes to the point, we are going to have a serious deficit. With that, I'm going to have to stop, but this is a seriously flawed process because we're talking about things that are new, that haven't been through committee properly, not for backbench members, and so I'm feeling badly underprivileged here. I will just, in closing, just make one positive remark. I did hear briefly in the EPP that there's a suggestion there shouldn't be a district centre. I think a district centre is essential, and one can see that a district centre in that location would work very well because it does for Chinham and it served a good purpose. So I wouldn't want to see that struck out. And with that, I guess I'll have to leave the table.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Bowman. I'd agree with you on the district centre, but I'd pass to Councillor Isaac to respond.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Beerman. We're here tonight representing the landowner, not the local planning authority. And you've heard that we have a commitment to delivering 3,080 homes over the planned period, an exemplary development, and that's what we're working to. We've had to cover a lot of ground. We've got very good people on side working for us. I'm sorry that it has not been possible to share more about our proposals, but that will come in due course, and there'll be consultation with councillors and with members of the public. But I'm very heartened by the fact that the people's representatives sitting on our map are there's good cross-party support for what we're seeking to do as landowner on the land.
Yes, thank you. Firstly, I believe that discussion after the event, i.e. after the local plan has been approved, is too late. It needs to be, for something of this dynamism, it needs to be in before. And I appreciate we're just talking about what we as landowners should offer. This report makes it clear that we were looking at over 4,000 to start with, and we've gone back on that. And I'm saying we should at least be doing the 4,000. I happen to believe we could be looking at 8,000. I'm divergent from planners, chief executive and sundry others on that, but that's what I believe we could be doing. But to have cut it back anyway from 4,000 I think was a mistake, and I therefore urge you to rethink that part of what's been done and perhaps come up with the numbers, which is very specific to Manydown. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Beerman. Next on the list for speakers is Councillor Keating.
Thank you. I've come along tonight to remind you that the High Court judge did say that we were conning ourselves into believing we could act as a landowner and planning authority and not assume that we were the same body. I think we're falling into the same trap. Councillor Jarwina and Councillor Isaac, along with the council leader, Councillor Saunders, at the last full council meeting on the 25th of July, all voted for a motion which effectively demolished the potential to develop Manydown as we know it. The decision of the council was not to do it as we have intended, as we had planned, as we had as you, as members of the Manydown Executive, had previously think. And your decision notice tonight ignores that principal decision, which was to undermine the total development of Manydown. Now, if the council decision was very, very clear, draw a line down through Manydown land owned by us, it was very clear, and to not develop hundreds of acres on it, as well as drawing a line down and stopping the particular proposed development on Worthing Road. We are in danger of going back to the High Court, and you are participating in a con job if you don't react to and understand the decision of the full council. But apart from that, I've got nothing to say. Thank you.
Councillor Keating, as portfolio holder, I'm very aware of the High Court ruling and the responsibilities that imposes. As far as the full council decision is concerned, we're here tonight as the landowner, and there are aspects that we are seeking in relation to the policy pertaining to Manydown. Don't forget, full council voted on the whole draft local plan. So, like many landowners whose land has been allocated, we're looking to make adjustments to what is in the policy, and we think that what we're doing is reasonable, but overwhelmingly the proposals for Manydown are positive, and therefore we're hopeful that that the local planning authority during the consultation period will take account of what we're saying and will make these adjustments.
My understanding is that you, as a committee of the council, are subordinate to the full council decision, and to suggest that the local planning authority is excluded from what happened on the 25th of July is a nonsense, because everybody, with various odd exceptions, were there, whether they were on the planning side or the landowning side, and you were there. So, I mean, why do you think you can ignore that decision? Why do you think that?
No intention of ignoring it. This is the whole point of the consultation period. The vote was on the full draft local plan, and we're seeking to achieve clarification, improvements, adjustments to the policies pertaining to Manydown. And I'm sure, actually, that you would support that.
Not to see you at the High Court, but I've always supported Manydown and will continue to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Keating. Councillor Harvey.
Can I declare an interest? I have a personal interest in two sites in this borough, one of which has a relationship with the local plan and one that does not. As far as I'm aware of at the moment, it's a personal interest, so I'll put that on the record before I start. And I'll try and get through the 2 minutes, and if not, you might just indulge me with 30 seconds. That would be nice. Thank you very much, Brendan. The County Council report that's gone out today, that's being considered today, makes it very clear that the county plan to object to the entry on the local plan on Manydown. The question begs, how in the world, if we're working in partnership, do we wind up with the county now objecting to our local plan? It's ludicrous. The Economic EPP Cabinet member with portfolio responsibility for Manydown is very clear in his response to Councillor Potter at that meeting that you had no knowledge of the county report prior to it being raised at EPP. In the same meeting, our officer told the EPP committee that they had been aware of the report. So what in the world are we allowing the Cabinet member to walk into the EPP meeting without being briefed on it? Paragraph 4.5 of the county report states that the Director of Culture and Communities and Business Services has written to the CX to express concern over the latest changes to the local plan in respect of Manydown. Question begs, when was that, and what has the Chief Executive done with that information? You also discussed at EPP legal matters that were in closed session, and as a member of P&I, I'd like to see that legal information, not just simply the pink paper, but the full legal opinion. Very much want to see that. So there are a number of questions that begs who did what, where and when to actually understand the full picture of how we wind up where we are this afternoon. And it also reflects on the fact that what was presented to committee at P&I by officers that was then altered by Councillor Raffel, all wrapped up equals not being acceptable, viable in the opinion of the County Council and in the opinion of others. On that basis, the question begs, did officers know that when they were advising P&I that that's all right to take the Manydown policy forward in the shape and form that it was? If they did, then that's an issue. If they didn't know, then that's also an issue. How in the world do we wind ourselves up in this position of being potentially in contempt of the High Court again? The other point to bear in mind is there are key dates that we should be aware of in the original agreement that puts the time frame on council-led development of Manydown. I'm led to believe that that is the case. And if so, the council could be failing in its legal responsibilities again if we don't meet those time frames. I think there's a lot going on here that we really need to unpack, Chair, principally because we've been through Ernst & Young, we've been through ARCA, and here we go again. We just shouldn't be here.
Thank you, Councillor Keating. Councillor Harvey. Councillor Isaac.
Firstly, in relation to the Hampshire County Council report, which I think came out on the day of the EPP meeting. No, I haven't seen it, and take my word for it. I've seen it since, obviously. And I don't think it's so surprising that I haven't seen it. It was something that was published on their website, but I don't spend all my time looking at what's on Hampshire County Council's website. And I think also the officer received the report on that day. So you please believe me, I did not see it. Okay. As to its content, which obviously I have looked at now, they are making representations in relation, or they're proposing to make representations, and I think it's now their policy they will do, that they're making representations that are consistent with what we're seeking to do as landowner, as joint landowner with them for Manydown. So again, I'm not quite sure where you're seeking to find the difficulties and the differences.
Chief Executive, would you like to make any comment?
I think I can assist on a couple of points. On the question of the County Council report, in fact, I was aware, I think I was the person who first became aware of it because I knew that the report was being prepared for the County Council meeting on the 24th September, and I asked for a copy, and it hadn't been posted on the County Council's website. It was posted as a result of our request for a copy. I received the copy and I made it available to the relevant officers of the council. I didn't provide a copy direct to Councillor Isaac, so if anyone's at fault there, it's me and not Councillor Isaac. In terms of the County Council writing to me, the County Council wrote to me, all I can say is when I was on holiday. I can't give you a precise date, but it was around about the beginning of August. When I received the letter, I wrote back to the County Council saying I understood the concerns that the County Council was raising, sought a meeting with the County Council's director, had a meeting with the director of the County Council, discussed the issues that the County Council had raised in its letter, and we reached a preliminary conclusion that the likelihood was that the County Council's report to its executive member today would be largely the same in terms of its content as what we would be reporting via EPP to our MEC. In other words, officers of the County Council had concerns about the impact of the draft local plan policy on deliverability, yield, viability of the Manydown development, and the BDVC officers had the same concerns. So the report that's before MEC this evening is in more detail than the County Council report, but essentially covers broadly the same areas. So So that's how we dealt with that. So there is a consistency of position between the County Council's director and the officers of Basingstoke and Dean. In terms of the legal information, as you know, was the subject of a confidential appendix last Thursday evening and is the subject of a confidential appendix tonight. I received a request from a member of the council to see a copy of that legal advice. I wrote to the group leaders yesterday evening saying that I had received a request, that in the spirit of something that was agreed between me and group leaders on the 23rd of July 2012, I think actually Councillor Harvey, you were there as deputy group leader, I would make the legal advice available on a strictly confidential, legal, professional privilege basis, and I copied that advice to group leaders yesterday evening, and I said I was happy for it to be shared with members of their groups on that strictly confidential basis. So the answer to your question is, if you want to see it, ask your group leader.
Thank you, Chief Executive. Councillor Harvey, do you have a supplementary question?
There's quite a bit there to cover, isn't there? On terms of the legal thing, I think I appreciate what Tony said, and it's all well and good in terms of the group leaders respect that. But a part of ARGA and part of Ernst & Young was the open engagement of members in this, because all 60 of us vote on the local plan, and it isn't just the purview of group leaders. All 60 of us are responsible for the local plan. This is a local plan matter, and therefore the planning aspect should apply, really, respecting what the Chief Executive has said. I guess the issue is this. We have a position that was created out of consultation with officers' advice at P&I, that Councillor Raffel then altered in the last weekend before we got to full council. That position is completely untenable based upon your report this afternoon and the report the county had taken. The question begs, really, and take into consideration the Chinese wall and the High Court and all that was said, how in the world do we get one set of advice that leads to one conclusion that both of you vote for at full council? To be fair, Councillor Finney was not at that meeting, but both of you were. So you voted for that standing position, and now you're here telling us, oh, I'm sorry guys, but we now need to change it because of. Somewhere along the line, something happened, and we have now found ourselves in this position. That is unacceptable, and it has been, in some respects, dropping the ball in some way. That's what we need to understand from a scrutiny perspective of your actions, really.
Before I invite Councillor Isaac to comment, Chief Executive, did you wish to make a point of clarification?
I just think to cover the point about the legal advice and transparency. The confidential appendix to the EPP report is available to all members of the council. The confidential appendix to the EPP report is therefore available to all members of the council. Now I appreciate it's not the detail of council advice that's now being provided, but I think it would be very difficult for anyone who's read that not to understand the essence of the advice, both from the officers and from council, and to understand the respective position of the county and borough council officers. So my answer to that would be, I believe the officers did the right thing in providing all members with a summary of the legal implications, and I believe that is transparent to make that available to all members of the council for consideration at an overview and scrutiny committee in advance of a decision being taken by the Manydown Executive Committee. And the other point from an officer perspective that I think I ought to make is if one looks at, and I don't wish to get involved in the politics of this whatsoever, but if one looks at the chronology of events in July, the various potential amendments to the local plan emerged over the weekend prior to consideration by Cabinet on the Monday evening, the 22nd of July. And then they went forward from Cabinet on the 22nd of July to full council on the 25th of July. I don't think in that timescale it would have been possible for the officers to undertake the detailed analysis of all the potential implications of the changes that were being made. But I think it is entirely reasonable for any party to put forward changes in the knowledge that they are not definitive, they are not binding, they are not committing anyone to anything. They are changes that are going to go through a process of consultation. And the whole purpose of consultation is to enable any party who's interested in the local plan to comment on and respond to. The eventual decision on the local plan that goes before the inspector is still to be made. So I'm just explaining that it was not possible for a report of this nature and an analysis of this nature to be prepared on behalf of the landowner in consultation with the County Council in the period that we were working in.
Thank you, Chief Executive. Councillor Isaac, would you like to respond?
Yes, Councillor Harding. I don't think there's any inconsistency with my voting at full council for the whole draft local plan. There's much more in it, as you know. But separately, as the portfolio holder responsible for Manydown, as the landowner, not party of the cabinet decision on Manydown, then I think again it's perfectly consistent for me now to be saying that, as any landowner, that there are areas in the policy on Manydown which I think where there is there's room for improvement, clarification, and that's why we are putting forward. We're going to be putting forward representations within the consultation period. That's what the whole process of consultation under the local plan is about.
Thank you, Councillor Isaac, Councillor Harvey, and Councillor Tilbury, please.
Yeah, thanks very much. Yeah, I mean, this whole thing about the local plan, I mean, it was all changed at the last minute, and those of us who were working on the map could see the obvious problems with this, and we could raise as much as we could at full council, but we couldn't without going into detail. And I think there is a real issue with this. How much of this is coming out? At least some of it's now coming out in the public, so people could have a better idea of what's going on. But I ended up having to vote against the local plan because I couldn't vote for it because I knew the implications of it, and it was obvious to me at that time, and it was obvious to the other members of the map as well. But obviously some of us voted one way and others voted another way, so we need to get this resolved now, and I'm glad to see this report is at least trying to go in that direction. But it does seem crazy when we have to have Hampshire sort of pushing us in the right direction, because I can certainly believe they didn't bother to tell anyone about it, because I see the way they deal with Manydown, with the joint Manydown committee. I mean, the reports don't go to anyone other than the leader of the council, which came out as part of the old sort of Manydown issues before. I think there is a fundamental problem here, and you can't develop Manydown by saving it. And unfortunately, there are a number of people in the cabinet, not just here, but down at the county, that is their approach. And until that's resolved, and that's only something that you can do in your political group, we're going to keep coming up with this mess, because I think you're being undermined. Those of you who genuinely are trying to do the right thing are being undermined by some of your other colleagues, and I think I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Yes, we've worked very well on the map together, and I think that I want to do the right thing, and you want to do the right thing. We have a common purpose in seeing an exemplar development on Manydown, and so I think what's important at this point is that these representations go forward, and that we achieve the changes that we generally support.
Thank you, Councillor Tilbury. Councillor Isaac, would you then like to sum up and move a recommendation?
Thank you, Chair. We're recommending that tonight we note the progress that's been made to date, that we consider the views of the EPP Ofcom, and that we delegate authority to the portfolio holder for property finance and commissioning to submit representations to the pre-submission local plan consultation based on the contents of this report and the summary representations set out in this paper, having taken account of the views of EPP Ofcom. We also delegate authority to the portfolio holder for property finance and commissioning to sign memorandum of understandings with the Worting landowners and the Manydown Development Company for the reasons set out in the paper, noting that this would not prejudice the council's future position.
Thank you. Is that agreed? Agreed. Thank you, members, and that closes the Manydown Executive Committee meeting this evening. Thank you.